feeling that this is gonna be my day. Let's go to the brave space.
We're back on a new episode of the podcast, The Brave Space. This space is especially dedicated to people who have challenges with trauma and anxiety. And today I feel so honored that we are going to spend time with one of the world's most inspiring person when it comes to develop extreme resilience. I welcome Dr. Srikumar Rao. He is an executive coach with a special focus on people who are highly spiritual. And he's dedicated to help individuals live lives of extraordinary accomplishments and deep fulfillment. He's also the bestseller author of 5 best-selling books and a world-known speaker, Mind Valley author, TED speaker, and founder of the Rao Institute. Did I get it all right? Did I miss something?
No, you got all the details right, Laila.
You accomplished so many things in your life. And may I ask, you came from India to America?
I had a very deep desire from a very young age. I got to go to America. I used to read a lot, and I read in particular Reader's Digest, which I found wonderful. And all those articles and all those advertisements about life in America, I said, yes, I've really got to experience that. So that was really my primary desire. So when I finished my MBA, I got a very high score on my GMAT. In those days, they used to call it ATGSB, Admission Test for Graduate Study in Business. So with that, I knew that I could come anywhere I wanted. So there were all these great universities that said, dear Mr. Rao, please come to America. Please do PhD. We will give you fellowship. That means money. So I said, yes, I'll come. So that's how I happened to come to America. And then I did my PhD at Columbia Business School.
So, as I told you before, I want to support people on their healing journey, people who have had incidents in their lives that caused trauma and pain and anxiety in them. And you have some really helpful tools that I use myself that helped me so much and led to a rapid change and rapid acceleration of my healing process. There is, for example, your approach on happiness and the if then model that I would like to talk to you about. And yeah, how can we shift our perspective to see not only the pain, but the potential of the growth when something severely painful happens to us?
Excellent question, Laila. Let me speak at two different levels of this, okay? One is if the person who is listening to this podcast is a person of faith, whatever the wisdom tradition they belong in, I've had multiple people from every wisdom tradition take my course Protestants, Catholics, in general, Christians, Buddhists, Muslims, Sikhs, Hindus take it. And every one of them told me that they understand their tradition better as a result of having worked with me. So if you're a person of faith, say whoever it is, Krishna, Allah, Buddha, they will never ever do anything which is harmful to you. So whatever has come to you is actually a lesson to help you on your journey of learning and growth. And if you're a person of faith, it's easy to understand that, and we begin with that as a starting point. If you're not a person of faith, and many persons who attend my programs and say they've been helped by it are not, they're either atheistic or agnostic. I invite them to consider a saying by Einstein, which is the most important question you will ever ask yourself is the universe friendly? Let me repeat that. The most important question you will ever ask yourself is the
Yes.
universe friendly? Now, the majority of people who our atheistic agnostic will say the universe is neither friendly nor unfriendly. It's indifferent. Here I am going around doing my thing. There's the universe going around doing its thing. Sometimes it seems to be working for me. Sometimes it seems to be working against me. But essentially, it's a random process. Okay. But what if the universe was actually friendly? The question comes, if the universe is friendly, why does it give me something I don't want? I want to travel the world and go on vacation and have a nice time, and the universe gives me pandemics and lockdowns. Well, what if the universe gives you not what you want, but what you need? It's like you're a child and you want a tub of ice cream, but the universe, through your parents, gives you fruits and vegetables. And you don't want fruits and vegetables. You want a tub of ice cream, but the universe gives you fruits and vegetables. What if it was like that? The universe doesn't necessarily give you what you want, but it gives you exactly what you need. Can I prove that? No. Can you prove that it's not so? No. It's a superior mental model. So, how do you get to the point where you believe the universe is friendly? Look for signs the universe is friendly. And if you look for signs the universe is friendly, you will find them everywhere. Like Laila reached out to me to be on the podcast. And we had a conversation. I said, boy, Laila has such an interesting background and we're so aligned. I want to know more about her. So we agreed to set up a time to talk after this podcast is over. It's a sign of a friendly universe. I'll tell you an incident that happened to me. I was going to a supermarket and, my wife asked me to pick up an item she needed for something. And I did. And just as I got to the supermarket, a woman got in line in front of me and she had one of these overflowing baskets, all full. And she had other items in her hand which wouldn't fit in the basket. And I thought, oh my God, it's going to take me forever to get out of here. And even as I was thinking that, she looked at me and smiled sweetly and said, you only have an item. Why don't you go ahead of me? So I went ahead of her. And as I went ahead of her, someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, I'm going to open up line number 2. Why don't you come there? And I went there and there was no line. Now, such things happen in life all the time. But what do people do? They simply, are glad for a moment and they say it's a coincidence. Don't label it a coincidence. Label it a friendly universe and take it as a sign that it's a friendly universe. And most important, write it down. And if you're constantly looking for signs that the universe is friendly, you will find so many of them. Write them all down. And when you write them all down, you will find that there are so many signs that the universe is friendly that you'll come to a personal tipping point and start asking, what if the universe was friendly after all? And you'll tip over into the world where the universe is your friend and you will have a much, 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 much better experience of life. That's why Einstein said the most important question you will ever ask yourself is the universe friendly? He didn't say whether the universe was friendly or not. He said the most important question you will ask yourself is the universe friendly? So for those people who take my programs and workshops and they don't believe in God, they're atheistic or agnostic, if they practice the friendly universe, they will come around to the point where they believe, yes, it is a friendly universe after all. And it's no different from a person of faith who believes that Jesus or Allah or Krishna or Buddha is orchestrating their life. Okay? So we now come to the point of trauma. If the universe is friendly, it will never stab you in the back. It'll never shaft you. So even though it is currently incomprehensible to you, you know that there is a lesson in there for you to learn. Now, some things are so traumatic, some things are so bad in our lives that we cannot ever think that it could perhaps be a good thing. Death of a child, for example, serious illness, or on a global scale, it could be things like the Holocaust, the partition of India, war, etc. So you wrap that up in cellophane and say, with my present level of understanding, either of God or of a friendly universe, I cannot accept this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it up in cellophane, put it up on a shelf, and say, maybe someday I will have the spiritual maturity to understand. But till then, I will think of it as this is definitely an unbelievable evil, but I will not let my life be defined by this tragedy. And I will recognize that many things, many wonderful things came as a result of personal tragedy. Like, for example, the organization that formed to ban landmines. It got the Nobel Peace Prize a few years ago. That was formed because of personal loss. Organizations like Mothers Against Drunk Driving also came the same way. So, out of this suffering, somewhere, somehow, some good will come. And I'm going to work to recognize it and help it and grow it. And
Okay.
as you do that, trauma no longer becomes debilitating, but it becomes a tool for you to use to work on yourself. But you have to do this with awareness. And that is where the key is. Because understand, Laila, any traumatic event is just an event. It does not scar you and it does not have to cause you suffering. Unless you decide in your head, oh, this is bad, this is terrible, I cannot bear it. And then the suffering begins right away. If you can reframe it immediately, it is fantastic. If you can't reframe it immediately, but you work on it, you can reframe it. And it's a trivial example, but it's a funny one, and you recall it. So let me tell your podcast viewers also about it. When my daughter was born, I was still in the PhD program at Columbia Business School, or had just graduated, and I had a lot of friends who were in the similar circumstances with slightly older children. So they all came around and congratulated me and said, do you need a crib? Do you need a stroller? Do you need playpens? And I said, yes, yes. So I got all of them. And, that's what we brought up my daughter in. When my son was born, I did not have such willing friends. I had to buy everything new. And this upset my daughter. And she said, how come, you're buying all new things for him and I got used things? So I thought it would blow over and I soothed her. But it didn't blow over. She would constantly go back to that. Why is he getting new things and why did I have used things? So I realized that this is not a problem that is going to go away by brushing it. So I told her, hey, listen, Gauri, you got something new that is so powerful, so magnificent, so much more important that if for the rest of your life you only got used stuff and your brother got used stuff, you would still be ahead of the game. She was puzzled. She couldn't understand. She didn't know what to think. She didn't believe me, but she was curious. What did she get that was so new that it makes up for everything else? So I bent down and told her, hey, Gauri, you got new parents. Your
Yes.
brother got used parents. And she thought about it for a while and she smiled and then it went away and I never heard from that again. What is important, Laila, is what is the story you tell yourself about what happened to you. And if there is a traumatic event and the story you tell yourself is this is a traumatic event, it caused so much suffering, this is bad, this is why I'm scarred, you're going to carry that for the rest of your life. But if you believe in a friendly universe, then this traumatic event was sent to help you grow. Voila! All of a sudden you find that it is a stepping stone and a giant benefit, no doubt. Viktor Frankl, when he was in a
Yes.
concentration camp, I remember there was one time he was talking to someone who was a very beautiful girl, blonde, blue haired, there. And she confided to him that, I'm almost glad this happened to me because I was a spoiled brat. And as a result of this, I had discovered a spiritual side of me that I might never have encountered before. And it was incidents like this that led Viktor Frankl to his life work, which is why is it under conditions of extreme adversity, some people literally flourish and others go to pieces? And that was his life work. And it all has to do with the stories you tell yourself. So when you have PTSD and you're thinking, oh my God, this happened, etc., what you're really doing is you're ruminating and replaying that incident in your head. And each time you do it, it goes deeper and deeper into you. And it becomes very difficult for you to break out of it. But if you recognize that you're ruminating, if you recognize that these are the stories that you're telling yourself, then you can stop and tell different stories to yourself. And I'll give you a concrete example of this. So I had someone who took my course, and she had a very traumatic upbringing, which you can relate to several foster homes, childhood abuse, things like that. And, she always used to say, well, I had this troubled upbringing, and that's why I am the way I am. She was very bright. So, people would offer her jobs. And then she couldn't get along with anyone, so they'd fire her. Well, the story she told herself is, well, I had this traumatic upbringing, and that's why the way I am. And shortly after taking my course, she told a different story to herself. And the different story she told to herself is, I have witnessed humanity both at its very best and its very worst. As a result of which, I have an understanding of human nature that most people cannot even begin to fathom. And therefore, I can use this to my benefit in whatever situation I'm placed in. And when she started telling herself that story, it took her a few months to get into it. And then she was offered a job. And this time she didn't get fired. And, she built on a very successful career for herself. So for persons who have PTSD, understand that what happened to you is important. But what is much more important is what is the story you're telling yourself about what happened to you. And you can make changes in the story. You can literally rewrite your past. People say, oh, the past is the past. There's nothing I can do about it. Not true. You can do a great deal about the past because the past isn't important. What is important is the story you tell yourself about the past. And once you learn that, you'll find that even the most traumatic stuff that happened to you in the back does not have to leave a permanent scar. You can completely shed it forever.
Well said. I love your story with the used parents. It's one of the first stories that I heard of you. There's so many that like they're so like the way you tell them, they're so comprehensive that I always remember them, and they stick with me. Like even the story with the man who got the stallion and then he ran away and then he got Mars back. And so like I have so many stories that I remember of you, and especially in moments when I have hard times of reframing. It's not something like I do a lot of work, but of course, I think it's when human nature to go into polarity, to go into a tendency of saying this is good, this is bad, or these people are good, these people are bad. And then
Yes.
you have to remember yourself. Life is not black and white, and you have to wait a little bit until you can understand why things happen to you in life. For example, I can share something very personal. I got fired this job. It was very important for me for my financial security, and I was holding on to it. So I got out of this, and the first feeling I had was like a huge stone, a huge weight coming off from my chest. But of course, I had also parts of me that were thinking like this is unfair, I'm a victim. And so there are moments where I skip back into these patterns, but I've worked on this for such a long time, and I can bend back to resilience more easily. And first thing and first feelings that I had in mind is like, even though I have feelings of, okay, I don't know how to do what to do now. I feel like this was kind of friendly act from the universe because it was not the right place for me to be. It didn't nourish me, it didn't make me grow. I now feel like I'm ready to go on this journey and take on the challenge and also be more in the present moment and not like focus on the outcome or focus on the money, but okay, asking myself, how do I need to grow? What is the learning edge? And not necessarily know the whole learning process, but what is my learning for today? And
Exactly. I want to share something with your readers, which is uh, very, very relevant to what we're talking about. Day by day, the manna falls. Day by day, the wisdom, guidance, and direction necessary for that day are given to us. God does not often advise us a week in advance. We receive the direction as we need it. We have acquired the habit of impatience, and the result is that instead of waiting for God's decision to be made manifest, we let fear creep in. And then, afraid of the possibly unfortunate effects of indecision, rush in and act on the basis of our own best human judgment. Does that make sense to you, Laila?
yes,
And that is exactly what happened. You got fired. That's exactly what you needed because, as you said, you do not feel that you belonged in the place you were at. And you were hanging on to it because of security, income. Basically, it was fear. And let me remind you, Laila, that the universe has your back. It always has your back. And there is stuff you go through which seems, oh, this is so terrible. But within that so terrible thing is something that you need for your learning and growth always. Like you, one time I was fired from my post. And because I was fired from my post, I had spare time. And in that spare time, I created a course called Creativity and Personal Mastery. And it took my entire career on a totally different trajectory, the one I'm on now. And who knows, perhaps it would not have happened if I had not been fired. It's only at the end of the road that you can look back and say, yes, how wonderful this was. You know, Steve Jobs gave the famous speech at Stanford University where he said, you can only connect the dots looking back. You cannot
yes,
connect the dots looking forward.
yes.
That's so true.
There's another specific point that I would like to talk about with you. It's
Yes.
our personal control and the role of our mindset. Because especially when you have trauma and anxiety, people often give away their power and go to a state of victimhood. I am powerless. I'm victim. The world is bad. People are bad. So, how do you see our personal control and the role of our mindset to reframe trauma and to actually heal from it?
This actually, Laila, comes from what I said earlier. It's a friendly universe. So when you feel I am powerless, I'm a victim, there's nothing I can do, you're right. If you mean your particular body mind intellect complex. But with the universe as your friend, if God has your back, then you are not alone. You have a very, very, very powerful partner who will work with you to make things right. You know, where it says, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I feel no fear. It is absolutely true. It's like you're a lousy tennis player and you're going into a doubles match, but your partner is Roger Federer. All of a sudden, things change, right? So, in exactly the same way, the problems in our life come about, Laila, because we think I am the doer. You're not the doer. Some higher power is the doer. the universe, Krishna, Jesus, Allah, it doesn't matter, is orchestrating not only the events of your life, but the events of the world. And if it is this higher power that is orchestrating it and is acting through you, then where is the fear? All you got to do is lie back, and let this power act through you. And when you do that, you find that literally miracles happen all around you all the time. Let me tell you another story which will bring this home. I have a grandson, and he visited me. At that time, he was 4 years old. And I took him to an amusement park which is close by. And in this, there was a ride in which you sit in a car, and then the ride goes. It's like a mini roller coaster. And my grandson got in there and he turned the steering wheel of the car madly, and he had a thoroughly, thoroughly good time. And the ride ended, and he looked at me, and his face was shining, and he thoroughly enjoyed it. And he said, "Was I a good driver, Grandpa?" And I looked at his face and said, "You're the best driver in the world." How can you tell a 4-year-old child that the entire ride has been pre-programmed and whatever he did with the steering wheel had no impact whatsoever on the ride? It's exactly the same way with us. We think that we're going around doing it. I went to a good school, I studied hard, and therefore I graduated, and therefore I got a good job, and I performed well, and therefore I got promoted, and all of this is there. I am the doer, I am doing it. And this is a trap we fall into, Laila, because if you are the doer, then there is always the possibility that maybe I could have done something else which would have had a better result. Maybe I should have married Frank instead of Bob. Maybe I should have chosen this job instead of that job. And that leads you to a Pandora's box of would have, could have, should have. But what if this powerful force actually is orchestrating your life? Then whatever happened to you was the right thing. And the moment you adopt that as your framework, you see everything that happens in your life. And this is something which is preordained for me. And yes, I will try my level best, but the result is not under my control and never was. And that gives you a tremendous feeling of relief because you did not make errors in the past. In fact, my thesis is you cannot make a wrong decision. Everything that happens, every decision you make has been preordained, and it's been preordained for your benefit. And this is something that you can accept once you practice the friendly universe model, the benevolent universe model, and recognize that the universe is friendly. Einstein was dead right when he said the most important question you will ever ask yourself is the universe friendly? And if you do that exercise and you come to the point where the universe is friendly, you'll find that nothing phases you anymore. Each day you'll be given exactly the guidance you need for that day. And you will have trust in the universe. And when you have trust in the universe, your experience of life changes dramatically.
I would also like to talk about the if-then model.
Hmm?
Because I think it's also something that we could apply on people suffering from trauma and anxiety. Is this like,
Absolutely.
if I
It can be
didn't
applied.
have, yeah, if I didn't have this, if I didn't have that, I would be more happy. And yeah,
Exactly. If I did not have this traumatic experience when I was young, I would be happy. If I had a better job, a bigger paycheck, if I had a mansion, if I had my private plane, if I had my luxury yacht, I would be happy. This is what I call the if then model. And we believe in it so strongly. If I had this, if this happened, if this was the situation, I would be happy. Now, what we don't recognize, Laila, is it's the model itself that's faulty. We don't recognize the model is faulty. We think I put the wrong thing on the if side of the equation. If I was married, I thought I would be happy. I now recognize that I married the wrong person, so I should extricate myself from it with as little financial damage as possible and marry the right person, and then I will be happy. This is the Hollywood model or the Bollywood model. We should come to terms with the fact that it's not that I put a particular wrong thing on the if side of the equation. The model itself is broken. The if then model is broken. It's flat out doesn't work. And I'll prove it to you right now. Can you imagine sometime when you were in a scene of such spectacular beauty, maybe a rainbow, maybe a beautiful mountain scene, maybe the snow, and it took you outside of yourself to a place of great calm and serenity. Everybody can recall at least one such instance. Why did this happen? This happened because somehow at that particular instance, you accepted the universe exactly as it was. You didn't say, that's a beautiful rainbow, but if it was 200 yards to the right, it would be so much better. Or you didn't say, that's a beautiful scene, a beautiful valley, but that tree in the foreground has too many crooked branches, and you give me a chainsaw in 20 minutes and I'll fix it. No, the tree with the crooked branches was perfect where it was. The rainbow off center was exactly where it should be. And the moment you accepted it, the universe exactly as it was, you didn't have to do anything to experience the joy that's inherent in you. It came out and enveloped you. I'm suggesting to you right now that your life, with all of the problems you have, I'm suggesting to you right now, your life with all of the problems you think you have is every bit as perfect. But you're striving with might and main to rearrange some part of it. No, no, not this way. It's got to be this way. And in that, you're resisting the universe. And that is how you create the unhappiness in your life because you don't recognize the if then model is flawed. And by the way, this accepting what the universe gives doesn't mean that you lie back and do nothing. You act. See, you have a vision of the universe, and as long as you have a vision of the universe, it's incumbent upon you to try and make that happen. And in your vision of the universe, there's probably a tremendous role for you. As long as you have that vision, try your level best to make it happen. You may succeed, you may not succeed. Either way, you're ahead. Because the mistake we make is we think that the benefit of setting a goal and trying our level best to achieve the goal is achieving the goal. Not so. The purpose of setting a goal is to establish direction. Once the direction has established, once the direction is, forget about the goal. Pour all of your emotional energy into what are the actions that you have to undertake in order to meet your goal. When you do that, two things happen. Number one, you start enjoying the journey, and the journey is the only thing you have. And number two, the probability that you will get to the goal you wanted actually increases because the learning and growth happen to you. So the benefit of setting a goal and trying your level best to achieve the goal is not achieving the goal. It is the learning and growth that happen in you and to you as you try your level best to achieve the goal. If you actually achieve the goal, fantastic. If you don't achieve the goal, the learning and growth have already happened, so you're ahead of the game. You cannot lose. There's a wonderful Zen saying that encapsulates this, Laila. The purpose of washing dishes is not to get them clean. The purpose of washing dishes is to wash the dishes. The byproduct is they get clean.
Okay.
So focus on
I
washing
have
the
to say,
dishes.
yeah, that's a tick.
That is a tricky one. It'll take a long time to think about it before you realize how profound it is.
So thank you so much so far for this wisdom that you are sharing. For my audience, it is also always very helpful to talk about practical tools to help cultivate inner strength in the face of life challenges we meet. Is there a practice that you can recommend to cultivate and strengthen your resilience?
Absolutely. Many, many, many ways. Let me begin with the first, one of the most crucial cornerstones of my teaching. You have this stuff going around in your head that's never lets you stay. It's mental chatter. It's a constant, unceasing flow of thoughts. My God, this happened. Alarm bell rings. Why do I have to get up? I don't want to get up. Let me spend another 10 minutes in bed. Let me hit the snooze button. Things like that. It's an unending chatter. Most of us, all of us recognize it when it's pointed out to them, but most of the time we don't recognize that we have this thing going around in our head. Recognize it. It's mental chatter. It's always been with you. It's like an unwelcome relative who's shown up and you can't throw him out. We construct our lives with our mental chatter. We do not live in a real world. We live in a construct. It's as if we were in a matrix. This is not a matrix created by an alien civilization out to enslave us. It's something that we created with our mental chatter. So start observing your mental chatter. And you start observing your mental chatter, you divorce yourself from your mental chatter. So let's say you're furiously angry. And then you look back and say, hey, I am not angry. I am the observer of my anger. And the moment you can step back like that, your anger becomes less fierce. It becomes less able to drag you into unpleasant places, and it is quicker to dissipate. So, this is a cornerstone exercise. Anytime you're feeling sad, you're not feeling sad. Sadness is passing through you. Step back and observe the sadness. You lost your job and you're afraid. What's going to happen to me? You're not scared or fearful. Fearfulness and sadness are occupying a temporary space in your head. Observe that. When you become the observer of whatever is happening to you, you'll find that your mental chatter cannot grab you by the neck and take you to places where you don't want to go. That's one very practical, very useful tip. But you have to be sincere in your practice of that because you can begin observing your mental chatter, and sometimes within seconds, you move from being the observer to being your mental chatter. And when you are your mental chatter, all kinds of nasty things could happen to you. But when you're merely the observer of your mental chatter, storms come, storms go, no problem. You simply observe them. There it is, depression. How wonderful. And you observe your depression. And when you observe your depression, it goes away very, very, very fast. That's tool number one. Tool number two is your awareness is like a flashlight. It lights up whatever you shine it on. And I'll prove it to you. I want you to take your flashlight of awareness and shine it on the chair on which you're sitting. And the moment you do that, you observe the pressure of your buttocks on the seat. You feel the fabric or the leather against the back of your thigh, correct? 30 seconds ago, you were not aware of any of that, but now you are. Why? Because you shone the flashlight of your awareness on it. Where do we typically shine the flashlight of our awareness on? We shine it on the 2, 3, or 4 things that are wrong in our lives. More precisely, on the 2, 3, or 4 things that we think are wrong in our lives. And the 40, 50, 60, 200 things that are pretty damn good about our lives, we never shine the flashlight of our awareness on it, so it passes by unnoticed. Think about, do you have to worry about whether you're going to have dinner tomorrow? Do you have a bed to sleep in? Do you have a roof over your head? The moment I point all of this out, you notice, yes, yes, I'm incredibly privileged. But you don't feel incredibly privileged. You feel put upon and stressed out. That's because of where you shine the flashlight of your awareness. Starting immediately, tonight, shine the flashlight of your awareness on the thousands of ways in which you're truly blessed. When you get up in the morning, don't go immediately to the space of, oh my God, there's too much to do and I don't have enough time to do it all. Shine the flashlight of your awareness on the innumerable ways that you are incredibly fortunate and blessed. Bathe in it, shower in it, marinate in it, soak in it, and bring this feeling of appreciation and gratitude to you many times throughout the day. And it is my hope that everyone listening to this podcast will eventually come to the default emotional domain of appreciation and gratitude. Why is this important? This is important because when you're in the default emotional domain of appreciation and gratitude, you're not angry, you're not nervous, you're not anxious, you don't feel fearful. The two cannot coexist. So, once again, a very simple practical tool. The third tool, and I've already shared it earlier in this podcast, is look for signs that the universe is friendly. And when you look for signs the universe is friendly, you'll find them all over the place. The very fact that you're listening to this podcast and the concepts contained here is a sign that the universe is friendly. It's leading you to where you need to go. So those are some very practical, very actionable tools. And I can tell you, Laida, that students have told me decades after they took my program that they still use it every day and it's made an immense difference in their lives.
I have to personally add that I never truly had problems with gratitude because I come from a life where I had nothing. From my perspective, I had only to gain. I got free education, and like I think you know what I mean. Like I
Very
think
yes.
it's different for people that they are born into a world with like parents and a good surrounding, and then they lose it, and then they always have this subject subjective point of view. Life went backwards for me. For me, kind of, it started out really bad. And for me, it looks like I'm improving. I got out of this, I got out of that. So everything is for me a win. Even going through really dark times when I was facing the post traumatic stress syndrome, I really had so high anxiety and panic. There was such a chai chocolate tea, and this
Mhm.
was my gratitude practice every day. I was fighting my way out, and every day I would feel so grateful for having a cup of tea with this chocolate
Exactly.
chai. And so I was living from day to day. I was very determined and very convinced I will get out of here. Like, this is my journey and this I have to overcome and this and that. Of course, throughout the journey, it was not easy because sometimes you solve something and then something else shows up and something else,
Uh-huh.
and it can go longer and longer and longer. But I
Mhm.
never had a doubt I will come out of this. I never defined myself like, for me, it's like telling or naming I had a complex post-traumatic stress syndrome is I'm not really defining myself, but it's easier for other people if I say it in these
Yes.
words. They can relate to it. They understand what people with this condition experience, but I never defined myself through it. I always knew this is just part of my story. This is not who I am. And I think that's like, yeah, it's like all seeing as journey and not start defining yourself like this. I think that's a big danger for people who like really start to integrate suffering into their personality.
Yes.
And then it's
Absolutely.
hard. It's, I think it's impossible to get out of it because you always go back into this darkness and into this negativity and into this victim stage. So that, fortunately, it was never really part of my journey.
Not just fortunately, Laila, that is the sign for you that the universe is friendly because you've seen how people can slip into such a downward spiral and you avoided that trap. It's a friendly universe that helped you avoid that trap.
As a child, I always had this strong sense and determination that nothing can break me. And I still think it. I still think it is nothing can break you
And
unless
you're right, nothing can break you
you give
unless
permission to, unless you
exactly correct.
start defining yourself somehow about this
Yes,
brokenness, and it gives you something, it gives you some value to say, oh, I am broken, I am a victim. When you allow all these things to come in, and it gets really, really difficult to get out of this.
exactly
So
correct.
so
Exactly correct.
is there something else that you would like the audience to know? A special
Yes,
tool, a special program, a special book?
absolutely. It would be wonderful if anybody who's listening to the podcast and finds it of value, go to my website. It's www.therawinstitute.com. And if they register, then they will get my blog and they will also get details about my future programs. And I'm planning in the next year to launch some very, very powerful programs, and they will get information about that if they register. If people are more interested in more helpful tips, they can get a copy of my first book, Are You Ready to Succeed? It's available on Amazon all over the world, and that will really help them make these exercises a part of their life.
Thank you so much, Dr. Srikumar Rao, for spending the time with us, for sharing your tools, and for your to evolution, grow, and making this world a better place.
You. And it's my pleasure to be on your core program, Laila. Thank you.